You won't believe what I'm about to tell you. This isn't some clickbait story or internet rumor. This is my life, my nightmare, and the reason I'll never look at a neighborhood the same way again. Before I tell you how my own HOA Karen burned my house to the ground and then had the audacity to show up in my courtroom for sentencing, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because what happened next will make you question everything you know about justice, revenge, and the people living right next door. I used to think moving into a quiet suburban neighborhood was the dream: tree-lined streets, perfectly trimmed lawns, kids playing basketball in driveways, and neighbors who waved every morning. When I bought that little blue house on Maple Creek Lane, I thought I was finally building a life worth being proud of. I'd just gotten a promotion, my wife Emma was pregnant with our first child, and everything felt stable for once. Then I met her, the woman everyone called Karen. Her real name was Lorraine Kent, but everyone called her Karen because she was the self-appointed ruler of the HOA, the type of person who believed she was God's gift to the community. The first time she knocked on my door, it wasn't to welcome me, it was to tell me my trash bins were 2 inches off from where the guidelines stated they should be. That should have been my warning sign, but I laughed it off, thinking she was just one of those overly organized people. Big mistake. Over the next few months, she escalated. She fined us for having unauthorized flower colors in our front yard. Apparently yellow tulips clashed with the HOA's approved color palette. She complained about our guests parking in front of our house, even though the street was public. She even left anonymous notes on our windshield saying, "This neighborhood has standards. Keep up or get out." I started documenting everything, half-jokingly, thinking maybe I'd make a video about crazy HOA stories one day. I didn't know that documentation would later save my life, or at least my freedom. Because what she did next was beyond petty, it was evil. It started when Emma and I refused to pay a bogus $500 fine for excessive Christmas lighting. I'd spent weeks hanging lights with my little brother, syncing them to music for the holidays. It became a small local attraction. Everyone loved it, except Karen. She called it tacky, in violation of neighborhood quiet hours, and said it made our block look like a carnival. I ignored her threats until I got an official HOA letter stating they'd put a lien on our house. I went to the next HOA meeting, furious, only to find her sitting at the head of the table like a queen addressing her subjects. She smirked as I argued my case, then leaned forward and whispered, "If you can't follow rules, maybe you don't belong here." Everyone in that room looked away. I realized nobody was going to stand up to her. She'd intimidated everyone, but I didn't back down. I took photos, filed a complaint with the county, and publicly exposed her harassment in the community Facebook group. The post exploded overnight. Hundreds of likes, comments, and neighbors sharing their own stories of Karen's power trips. For the first time, people weren't afraid to speak up. That's when I knew I'd crossed a line she wouldn't forgive. A week later, strange things started happening. Someone keyed my truck. My mailbox got smashed. I found nails scattered across my driveway. Then one night, at 2:37 a.m., I woke up to the smell of smoke. At first, I thought it was just a neighbor's fireplace, but when I saw the orange glow outside my bedroom window, my stomach dropped. I ran to the hallway. Flames were licking up the staircase. Emma screamed for me as I grabbed her hand and our newborn from the crib. The fire spread so fast it was like it had been waiting to happen. We barely made it out the front door before the roof collapsed behind us. The heat was unbearable, the air thick with black smoke, the sound of wood cracking like gunshots. I stood there in my pajamas, holding my crying baby, watching everything I owned burn to ashes. The firefighters arrived minutes later, but it was too late. The entire structure was gone. The next morning, an investigator told me something that chilled me to my core. Accelerant traces were found in multiple spots. It wasn't an accident, it was arson. I knew who had done it. I didn't have proof yet, but I knew. The cameras I'd installed on the side of my garage had melted in the fire, but the one across the street, my neighbor Tom's, caught something. A shadowy figure walking across my lawn around 1:48 a.m., carrying what looked like a gas can. The person wore a hoodie, but the way they walked, stiff, deliberate, looked hauntingly familiar. The footage wasn't clear enough for police to make an immediate arrest, but I was certain. I told the detectives about the HOA war, about the threats, the vandalism, the Facebook feud. They listened but warned me not to jump to conclusions. We'll investigate all leads, they said. Weeks passed. We stayed with my brother, trying to rebuild our lives. Insurance covered some, but not enough. Emma cried every night. The house we'd built, the nursery we'd painted, gone. My anger festered until one afternoon, I got a call from Detective Ruiz. "We've made an arrest," he said. My heart raced. "You might want to come down to the station." When I arrived, I saw her. Karen, Lorraine Kent, sitting in the interrogation room, arms crossed, looking furious rather than scared. They'd found her fingerprints on a gas can dumped in a wooded area near my property. They'd also discovered multiple matches and traces of the same accelerant in her garage. Her alibi didn't check out. When confronted, she claimed she'd been sleepwalking. Can you imagine? Sleepwalking with gasoline. The case went viral. Local news, true crime podcasts, even Reddit threads were dissecting every detail. The irony, the same Facebook group where she'd bullied everyone was now filled with posts calling her the HOA from hell. But despite the evidence, she fought back. Her lawyer argued mental instability, claiming she was under emotional distress caused by online harassment. They painted me as an instigator, a man who provoked her into a breakdown. Sitting in that courtroom during her trial felt surreal. She didn't look remorseful, she looked smug. Every time our eyes met, she'd tilt her head and smile, that same fake neighborly smile she used to greet me with. The prosecution laid out the evidence, the footage, the gas can, the timeline, the threats, but her defense twisted everything, even suggesting maybe I had staged it for insurance. I thought the jury might actually buy it for a while, until they brought out one last piece of evidence, a voice recording. Remember those notes she left on my windshield? I'd started recording audio on my phone after the vandalism started. One night, a week before the fire, she'd come by, muttering to herself while picking at my mailbox. The recording caught her saying, "Maybe a fire will teach him." That was it. That line broke her defense apart like glass. She turned pale in the courtroom, and for the first time, she didn't smirk. When the verdict came, guilty on all counts, arson, property destruction, endangerment, I should have felt relief. But watching her being led away in cuffs didn't bring me peace. It brought emptiness. My home was still gone. My wife still jumped at the sound of smoke. Alarms. My child would never see the house where he was born. But the craziest part came later. Months after sentencing, I was hired as a court clerk's assistant, a job that helped us stay afloat financially. One day, I walked into a sentencing hearing for a different case. As I took my seat, I froze. She was there again, Karen, escorted in orange prison attire, hair cut short, eyes sunken but still sharp. She was being sentenced for attempting to manipulate another inmate into burning down her own lawyer's house because she blamed him for not fighting hard enough. She glanced around the courtroom, and then her gaze landed on me. For a split second, her lips curled into that same smirk. It was like she was saying, "You'll never get rid of me." The judge gave her the maximum sentence, 20 years. When she was led away, she turned back one last time and mouthed something I couldn't hear. I didn't need to. The look said it all. Even now, sometimes I wake up at night and smell smoke, even when there's none. Trauma does that to you. It burns itself into your senses. We rebuilt eventually, in a different town with no law, no neighbors who think they're gods. But every time I drive past a "for sale" sign in a perfect little suburb, my stomach knots. People think evil looks like monsters, like criminals with scars or tattoos, but sometimes, evil wears pearls, carries a clipboard, and calls itself president of the Homeowners Association. So yeah, if you're watching this and thinking about buying into an HOA neighborhood, remember my story. Remember what happened when I tried to stand up to the wrong person. And most importantly, don't ever underestimate how far someone will go when they think power belongs to them alone. Because for me, it started with a simple fine, and ended with fire. And if you think that's the end of it, hit that subscribe button, because there's more, way more, about what happened after she went to prison that no one's heard yet. Trust me, you'll want to hear the next part.